Right, let's have a look at this question 35, where they ask you to calculate the current ratio and the asset test ratio, and then to comment on it. Now, the current ratio and the asset test ratio are there to measure the liquidity of the business. Now, remember, liquidity is liquid, but from a financial point of view, liquid is cash. So when we're doing liquidity ratios, what we're looking to see is, have we got enough cash or assets that can be converted easily into cash in order to pay our debts. So we're looking around our current assets and our current liabilities, the short term. We might have a land and buildings, but that doesn't mean that I can sell that to pay off my debts immediately. So the first thing you are given is a list of balances. Now you need to identify from this, and that's what you're having to do in 35.4, is identify which section they come in the balance sheet. So if we have a look here, our debtors is a current asset. Our creditors is a current liabilities. Accrued income, or sometimes called income receivable, would be your current assets. Accrued expenses or expenses payable, current liabilities. Your mortgage loan bond is a non-current liability, so that we don't need. Vehicles is a non-current asset or a fixed asset. Trading stock is a current asset. Capital's owner's equity. Fixed deposit is your non-current asset, and bank overdraft is your current liabilities. So the first thing you're going to have to be able to do is identify. Then when we come to look and work out our current ratio, our current ratio, as the name is telling you, is looking at a ratio. Now you do ratios in math, so you know what a ratio is, and it's looking at the current assets, that's where the word current, as a ratio to your current liabilities. So you're going to have to go back here and add up your current assets and your current liabilities. And that gives you a figure of 91,980, and your current liabilities 43,800. Right, now when a ratio must always be something is to 1. So you always take the first number and you divide by the second, and that gives you an answer of 2,1, and it's customary to work to 1 decimal place. So what you're saying is that for every 1 rand of debts that you've got in the short term, you've got 2.10 rand in current assets to be able to pay that. And remember, your current assets are, it's not all necessary in cash at the moment, but it's debtors who will pay you. It's trading stock that will be sold, and you'll get the cash back to pay it. Now there's one problem with the current ratio, and that is that we include stock there. And we don't always want to be in a position where we have to sell our stock in order to pay for our debts. We want to carry on running, because how else is this business going to carry on running? And so the asset test ratio, the final test that comes in, is we take the current assets, but we minus our trading stock or our inventory. So it could be either called trading stock or it could be called inventory. It's the same thing to your current liabilities. So your current assets were 91,980. Take away your trading stock, the figure that you were given, and we've got a figure of 39,780. And the current liabilities are unchanged, 43,800. And as always, something is to 1. So we take in the first number, which is less than the second number. So we're going to have a 0, and it comes out at 0,9. So without stock, what you're saying is that for every 1 rand you owe, you've got 90 cents in assets, but that is without including your trading stock. Now, in order to comment, the first thing you need to do is compare from last year to this year. So you were told that the ratio last year was, the current ratio was 1,9. So the first thing you do is you compare. And your answer is going to say there's been an improvement, because this has gone from 1.9 up to 2:1. Secondly, if you look at your asset test and you compare, it was 1,1 last year, and it's actually decreased down to 0,9. So that's the first comment you have to write down, is you compare. And then you look at the two together and you say, all right, although this one has gone up and this one has gone down, is there a problem? And generally you can see, although this is slightly below, remember there is stock, we can say that this business is fairly sound from a liquidity point of view. They've got enough assets here to pay off their debts. The problem that might exist in this business, if you compare these two with each other, is that when we've got stock, we're fairly comfortable. Without stock, we're a bit below. And so this business, a lot of this, the difference between 2,1 and 0,9, which is 1,2 of this, is sitting in stock. So stock seems to be quite a big part of the assets here. And maybe they could be holding too much stock. Remember, you don't want to hold your stock for too long. You want to get your stock in and sold so you can make a profit as quickly as possible. The longer stock sits on the shelves, the less chance there is of making profit, and it's costing you. So the only suggestion you can make for this business is maybe they must consider trying to cut back their stock a bit in this business. Now, I know that many of you are going to want to compare to 2:1 and say that's the norm for current ratio, and the asset test is 1:1. Those are very old-fashioned ideas, and I know that many teachers will teach it to you in class, so if that's what you've been taught, you must use it. But you need to go beyond just looking at 2:1 and 1:1. What do these figures actually mean to you? And this business is in a fairly sound liquidity position with probably a little bit too much stock.